So I'm now going to show you how to work a gorgeous stitch. This is a stitch I use all the time for blankets or scarves or anything at all. It's a really lovely, I don't know why it's such a nice stitch, but it's very satisfying. This is the UK half treble, US half double crochet, and it's a really simple stitch to work. So when you've done your double crochet UK, single crochet US in the last video, this is the next stitch, which is a little bit taller. So we start at the beginning of the row and we're going to work into the stitches underneath these V's, these little V shapes. These are the stitches along our work. So to begin the row, I'm going to chain 2. Remember a chain, we bring the yarn around the hook and pull it through the loop. And I'm going to do another one, yarn around, pull it through the loop. So we're 2 chains high, and this is because a half double crochet US, half treble UK is 2 chains high. So this time, before we put our hook into the stitch, we're going to bring the yarn around. So bring the yarn around the hook. I'm going to put my hook into the stitch under the V and pull up a loop. Now this time we've got 3 loops on the hook. Remember, with the US single crochet, UK double crochet, we had 2 loops on the hook, but with this half treble, half double crochet, we've got 3. So I'm going to yarn around and I'm going to pull the yarn through these 3 loops. So it's a good idea to hold those bottom loops, so you've got full flexibility there on your hook. Use the end of the hook to pull that through all 3, and sometimes you might need a little wiggle like I did there. So let's do another one. We do yarn around the hook and then I'm going to put the hook into the stitch. So remember, that's under the V shape. Use your hook to pull up a loop so that you have 3 loops on the hook. Then we bring the yarn around the loop, the yarn around the hook. I'm going to hold these 3 while we pull the yarn through these 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. Let's do it again. Yarn around the hook, into the stitch, and pull up a loop. So there are 3 loops on the hook. We do yarn around the hook and then pull it back through all 3. Yarn around, into the stitch, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn around and then pull back all 3. Now that is the stitch there, so it's quite a tall stitch, 2 chains high. What I want to say to you here is, as with all of these things, if you pull your yarn really tight, it's going to make it very difficult to get the hook through. So try and keep your hands relaxed and keep your yarn relaxed. We talk a lot about tension or gauge when we're working in yarn crafts, and this is really all to do with your personal tension. It's how you hold the yarn and the hook. That's one thing, but if you pull the yarn tightly, you're going to have trouble with the size of your stitches, but also just getting the yarn through. I'll give you an example. So if I pull this round tightly and pull up a loop, and I've pulled that really tight, when it comes to getting the stitch back through, that's very hard to sort of wiggle it through. So if you find that's happening to you, you just need to loosen up your grip on the working yarn. So I'll show you again. Yarn around, into the stitch, pull up a loop. So we've got 3 loops on the hook, and then we do yarn around. Just put a steadying thumb on the bottom of those and pull the hook through. So you're pulling the loop right the way through those stitches. Now sometimes this can happen. You see how I've got a sort of like a quarter loop where the yarn is split behind. So I don't really want that because it's a bit messy. So I'm going to just take that out and put it back. And you can see there's the offender, the little bit of yarn that's split there. So keep an eye out for that. Yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and back through all 3. So I'm going to work now to the end of the row. Here we go. Yarn around into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, back through all 3, and here we are at the last stitch. And just like before, here is the last stitch. Always make sure you get right into that last stitch. Yarn around into the last stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull back through all 3. So that is the UK half treble crochet, US half double crochet. Right, let's have a look at how to work a double crochet US, treble crochet UK.